Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Atlanta, Georgia, it's time for Atlanta Business Radio. Brought to you by OnPay. Built in Atlanta, OnPay is the top-rated payroll and HR software anywhere. Get 1 month free at onpay.com. Now, here's your host.
Lee Cantor here, another episode of Atlanta Business Radio, and this is going to be a good one. But remember, before we get started, it's important to recognize our sponsor, OnPay. Without them, we couldn't be sharing these stories. Today on Atlanta Business Radio, we have April Stammel with Newport here to talk about 222 Mitchell. Welcome, April.
Hi, Lee. Thanks so much for having me. Excited to be here.
Well, before we get too far into things, talk about a little bit about Newport and all the development they're bringing to downtown.
Sure. So Newport is a real estate investment and development group. We are based in Germany, Hamburg to be specific, and have been doing investment over there for about 20 years. The team knew that they wanted to come to the U.S. at some point, add the dollar as a currency and just expand their portfolio. And in 2016, they finally felt their time was right. So they planted their headquarters here in Atlanta, not really knowing what their first project was going to be. And I think that's partial because of our Southern hospitality. I think there's arguments that we're also much less expensive than our Northern counterparts, and just a friendlier city for foreign investment. So they planted here and immediately started building out a local team to really help them research first projects. And they looked all over the region at projects of different scales and sizes, and eventually found themselves in South Downtown, which is where I actually am sitting today. And I think if I were to take people through on a walk through the neighborhood currently, you would see boarded up buildings and kind of run down streets. But our European leadership really just looked around and saw opportunity. And they knew immediately this is where they needed to start. I think between, at the time, the $1.6 billion stadium was being built in Mercedes-Benz. They saw the Capitol building right to our east and all the government centers around. Our 5 Points MARTA station just to our north. And I think they just saw this incredible urban street grid lined with beautiful historic buildings. And they just found themselves scratching their heads from an outsider perspective and saying, how could this possibly be? How could all these beautiful buildings be here and people leave them to just sit empty and rot? So the local team was on a mission to buy buildings. Our goal was about 50% of the privately held buildings in the area, and they were incredibly successful. We got to about 80% of the buildings in this 10-block area of downtown, and which equals about 48 buildings and about 800,000 square feet of property. So we spent about 18 months getting that portfolio together and have now spent the last year really doing in-depth planning with different architecture teams and trying to figure out what specifically buildings like 222 Mitchell want to be in their next life.
So
where we are today.
So what does 222 Mitchell want to be?
Well, it was built as an office building for CNS Bank. So their Southeast headquarters, which was eventually merged with Bank of America and assumed the Bank of America name. So it's built as this, if you can imagine a bank building, especially a headquarters that does a lot of cash counting and sorting. It's built as a fortress. So 3 distinct buildings that are all connected. They take over an entire city block. It's a little over 300,000 square feet of building just within that the one site. And it is our largest holding. So after working with our architecture teams, and exploring all different options, we just decided, let's just open up the ground floor. Let's make it really vibrant and approachable from all sides. And let's keep the upper floors as office. One of the advantages is it's the largest office floor plate offered in the city of Atlanta because it's the combination of several buildings. And so we see that as a big opportunity to give potential office tenants a lot of flexibility in how they build out their spaces, especially considering the changing times and needs of office. So it'll be an office building. It's a little over 200,000 square feet of office with about 70,000 square feet of retail. Most of that will be ground floor, street level, again, on all four sides of the building. And then we do have an event space and a restaurant on the rooftop with incredible views of the city.
And then what's kind of the timeline on making this all a reality?
So our current planning has us starting, we're doing a lot of clean out and abatement work currently. We'll be starting hard construction on that building Q1 of next year, and it'll deliver Q2 of 2022.
Now, when you take on a project like this, is this all just kind of you just start building it and then you hope you sell somebody on it somewhere in the process of building it? Like, how does that work?
Depends on how much money you have, to be honest. We will, because it is such a substantial project, we will go after construction financing. And so usually construction financing requires a certain amount of pre-leased property in order to fund the project. Obviously, during this time, funding office and retail gets a little tricky for banks and lenders. So we're working through that right now, but we do anticipate, we're starting the leasing process now. Tenants who are looking for that scale of office space like to look pretty far out. And I feel like, especially in these times, the sooner we can start, letting people in Atlanta know that this building is coming back and it's going to be amazing and it offers a lot of flexibility, the better we're going to be at when we deliver the building at making sure it's full of the right tenants.
Now,
so it's a little bit of both.
Is the kind of the vision of this South Downtown area, is it primarily office, or is it kind of a combination of residential, office, hotel? Like, what's the kind of, how does the story end?
That's a great question. So we have, as I mentioned, about 48 existing buildings. Those buildings are really set up best for street level retail. And then any floors above them will most likely become office. It's really hard to turn these old wood, buildings that are kind of shotgun style, so very long and skinny, into residential on the upper floors. So most of them will remain office. However, we do own also about 4 acres of parking lots, so just surface lots. And while those are great to in the near term to satisfy parking requirements for tenants, they are perfect redevelopment sites for future multifamily. And we firmly believe that in order to make downtown and South Downtown the robust, energetic, vibrant urban core that it deserves to be and used to be, we need people living down here, more people living down here. There are some, but we need more. And so our plan is definitely to deliver on multifamily in the next, several years.
Because you can't just rely on like the GSU student population, right? You have to have people kind of physically moving there at some point in time in order to get the proper density to serve all those retail. It can't just rely on office, can it?
It can't. You're exactly right. And we're fortunate in that the 222 Mitchell building is directly across the street from the first development in Centennial Yards, which is the big Gulch redevelopment project. So there were 2 existing buildings as part of that acquisition by CIM that is turning their 2 buildings into about 250 residential units. And so that will really bring to market as early as middle of next year the opportunity for some dense residential. And then hopefully our deliveries will only build on top of that. And they have plans for, I want to say, another 1,500 to 2,000 residential units on top of that.
Now, the last time we talked, we were talking about that PopUp Road that you created something out of nothing, where you gave entrepreneurs an opportunity to kind of be in business right in the heart of that South Downtown area. How did that go? And are you working on anything else like that?
Oh gosh, it was so much fun. I was really grateful to be able to have them showcase their business on your show. And we actually ended up extending them for a couple more months. So I think in total, they were in their spaces for 6 months. And that was, rent free and really just to give them spaces to help them test out their business concepts. So incredibly successful. I think one of the things that really was special for me to see was just the community that was built among the 8 tenants on the street. And just the idea of what that's going to feel like when there are more permanent tenants on the street is just really exciting for us. So in the meantime, while we've been doing all this planning, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of buildings that are habitable right now. But we have been doing some things that are very community oriented. We've worked with an arts organization called Dash. Some people know them as Dashboard. And they've used one of our spaces to bring in a couple different shows. One launched this spring. It was very unfortunate timing, but we're working with them on a couple more shows through the end of the year. Art and culture is such a huge part of downtown and has been a big part of this neighborhood so far. We want to make sure we're continuing to capture that. We also launched, although it never took place, a street market that was due to take place on South Broad Street. So just south of the 5 Points MARTA station, we have a tenant that has signed on to one of our buildings that we partnered with on curating a Saturday street market. It was due to have its first opening day, March 14th. I think all of us can remember what happened just that week before. And so while we never were able to launch it in person, we do intend for next year for that market to be active and lively as the city allows. And then we are currently working on a new marketing center downstairs, which is really exciting. And the idea for that space is to really be a public and community oriented space. So not just something we use for business purposes, but something we really invite the community into, because South Downtown doesn't have that right now. And until we have the local coffee shop or, breakfast spot or hang out for a beer after work place, we just want to provide a space for people to come and feel safe and be able to do a little bit of work for an hour if they need to get out of their place. So those are just some small things that we're doing right now in the meantime before permanent spaces deliver to the neighborhood.
Well, I think it's a testament to Newport that they're just so invested in the culture and in the community, and they're really trying to be creative in order to give people the opportunity to experience it, to kind of jumpstart kind of what once was down there. So kudos to you for trying and keep grinding every day like all the rest of us entrepreneurs are trying to do. That's
right. And I think so much of that comes from the fact that we are from a European company. We have this energy of, if you've ever been to the middle of Berlin, for instance, East Berlin specifically, there's this certain vibrancy in walking around on the streets or riding your bike that you just don't have here, specifically in Atlanta. And you don't have it in many U.S. major metropolitan cities. And so having that vision and the leadership and guidance to say, this is what we're going for, we know it can happen, marrying that with the super local team who understands how Atlanta works and who, half of us are natives, has been a really fun marriage of teams, because I think we are able to balance and really bring out the best in each other to hopefully get to a great end result that, really delivers on something for everyone in Atlanta.
Yeah, and this is a long-term project, and it seems like Newport has that kind of patience and the vision to kind of keep grinding, and see it through.
Yes, we are grateful. We are our investment partners, our long-term holders. So I do think it gives us a huge advantage that we're able to adapt to times like these and build according to what the neighborhood needs and what the city of Atlanta needs and our growth patterns, and not have to stick into a certain lane to get very specific returns. So I do think that's a huge reason why we've been able to take our time and really invest in the community before making any huge leaps on the development side.
Well, if somebody wanted to learn more about Newport, South Downtown, and 222 Mitchell, what are the coordinates?
Best place is our website. It's South Downtown, although spelt differently. It's southdwntn.com. Our favorite social media platform is Instagram, and it's the same handle, South Downtown, DWNTN. And we are very accessible. Like I said, our marketing center is being built out. We invite people on tours of the neighborhood and our buildings in progress. We wear masks, we keep distanced, but it is one of our favorite things to do. So if there's any interest, please know they can reach out to me directly and find us on that website or through social media.
Right. So you're still going about business just in a safe way.
Exactly. Yes, absolutely.
Well, April, thank you so much for participating on the show. We appreciate you and the work you're doing to revitalize downtown. It's work worth doing, and thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Lee. I appreciate you having me.
All right, this is Lee Cantor. We'll see you all next time on Atlanta Business Radio. And remember, this work would not be possible without the support of our sponsor, OnPay. Please support them so we can continue to share these important stories.
Today's episode of Atlanta Business Radio is brought to you by OnPay. Built in Atlanta, OnPay is the top-rated payroll and HR software anywhere. Get 1 month free at onpay.com.